In this video, I'm going to be going over the second part of the first project for this course. You have up to now this week, you've been studying about master budgets. You've learned about the operating budget, the capital expenditure budget, the financial budgets. And in this project for your Tasty Treats project, you have been working on your budget. And in a previous announcement this week, I gave you some check figures, and I will, you can see them here, and I've also given them to you in an announcement. But what I want to do in this video is I want to go over the second part of the project. If we look here at our instruction sheet, you'll see you go through and you do the budget, and then you have the template that I gave you, the Word document, where that's the red and white thing that I'm sure you've looked at hopefully by now, where you discuss each of the budgets, your sales budget, your production budget, your manufacturing budget, your selling budget, and all. All right, so in part two, you're actually going to do some analysis, and this goes into the last paragraph of the template. So what I want to do is I'm going to jump over to that. So here's the workbook that you've been working in, and to do the last paragraph of the template, this is the report that you will use. But you can, there's a worksheet here that you can use, and that's what I want to focus on right now. I want to go over that with you here. All right, so if you look here, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at labor variances, and you're going to be looking at material variances. So you can see this worksheet is separated into two different sections. And I'm going to walk with you through the labor portion, and then I'm going to let you work on the material variance portion. Okay? All right. So let's start filling out this worksheet. So if we look here and we want our actual cost, well, we are given that information in our instructions. So if I go back to our student discussion instructions, and I go down here to the budget variance analysis section, I will see that here it tells me the material, and here it tells me the labor. The actual labor hours were 33,000 with an actual rate per hour of $15. So now if I go back to my worksheet, here I see my actual cost I know is $15. Okay, and my actual quantity was 33,000. Okay, so that's the number of hours. Okay, so that's, let me move it up one row, I'm sorry. All right, so now to get that total, I simply am going to go into column D, the next row down, and I'm going to multiply those two together. $15 times 33,000. All right, so I actually had, I'm at the end of the period, and I've actually had $495,000 worth of labor costs, okay? But remember what we've been talking about all through this course. We've been talking about how managers cannot wait until the end of the period to get that information. They have to be able to make quick decisions. So we go and we remember us talking about the predetermined overhead rate, where we go in and we do estimates. The manager takes a lot of things into consideration, and we've looked at some of those things, and they come up with a standard cost. Okay, that's our POHR, our predetermined overhead cost. Now, where do we get that from? Well, I tell you here, it's from the given budget information. Remember those assumptions that were in there? So I'm going to go back to your student discussion sheet. I'm going to go back up here to where I gave you the assumptions for the labor. Remember I told you that I wasn't going to make you have to calculate the POHR. I was going to go ahead and give it to you. So I did that. So when you prepared the labor budget, you put in $16 an hour. Okay, so basically if I go back over here to your budget, let's see, you're actually going to have $16 right across here because that's what you budgeted. And remember, In my announcement, I gave you that check figure for August, okay, of what the total should be. All right, so here's your rate right here, $16. So when you go over here to your worksheet, you know that that's your POHR. Your standard cost was $16, okay? So I'm going to put that in there. All right. Then it asks you to enter the standard quantity from your budget. All right, so I'm going to go back to your budget where you prepared your budget. I'm going to give you another check figure. Okay, hopefully whenever you did your direct labor budget, and I know many of you have, okay, but when you entered your hours for July, August, and September, you should have had a total of 30,000 hours that you were budgeting, that you were estimating for the period, okay? So that's what I'm going to put in right here. So you had at the beginning of the period, at the beginning of July, you said, well, I'm going to estimate that I'm going to pay $16 an hour and I'm going to have 30,000 hours. And I'm going to estimate that my total costs for direct labor are 16 times 30,000. All right? $480. Well, guess what? If you come over here to your budget, that's exactly what this figure right here should be. Okay? That's what you should have there. I'm kind of giving you some answers here, right? All right. So now what you want to do is you want to take, and you can do a quick analysis here to say, well, what if my quantity, you know, what if I had actually had 33,000, which I did have 33,000 hours, but what if I multiplied that times my POHR? What would that have been? I would have had 16 times 33,000 hours. I would have had, I can make my column a little wider here, $528,000 in costs. So now basically all you're going to do is you're going to look at the difference between your POHR and your actual hours. You're going to look at the difference between that and your actual, which is simply 528,000 minus 495,000. Okay, so you actually you had a variance of 33,000. Now you'll notice that your actual was lower than what you estimated. So we're going to consider this as being favorable. Okay? Now we want to do the same thing over here. What if we had taken our what we had, our actual times what our standard, our POHR was, compared to what we budgeted, okay? Then we actually would have had more. So that would have been the 480,000 minus the 528,000. That would have been an unfavorable. Okay. All right. So when we compared our standard cost, our POHR, okay, and our actual, okay, and then what we budgeted, it actually would have been unfavorable, okay, if we looked at our actual hours, because see, we only estimated 30,000 hours. We actually had 33,000. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to get the difference between the favorable and the unfavorable. So do we end up to the good or to the bad? Okay, so that's simply the difference between our actual of 33 and 48, which is 15,000. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to come over to our report here, and we just want to enter that information. So right here, you want to enter in right here, right here, right here, across the bottom, right here, 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 across the bottom. So your actual results for your direct labor, you're going to come back over here. Your actual results are right here. Remember, you actually had a cost of 15 with a quantity of 33. So that was 495,000. Your static is what the budget that you made at the beginning of the period, okay? So you're going to come over here. Remember, that's your 480. If you go back over here to your budget, remember I told you this is your static budget that you've been working on all week or the last 2 weeks. All right, so that's your static. So you're going to put that number in. And what is your variance? Well, you've already calculated it over here, but here you'll just put that in. All right, so you had an actual of 495. You budgeted 480. So you went over, didn't you? You went over, didn't you? Okay. So this is going to be considered unfavorable. Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, this is unfavorable. Now you're going to go back and you're going to do the same thing for the material. You're going to pull it from the same exact places and put it in here. All right. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And this is where what you'll do is, one more thing, you will actually you can take a net whenever you write that last paragraph and you talk about this variance. Okay. Let's see. What does it tell us? Let me go back to the let's see, discuss each variance. What does the variance tell you? Well, in the first one, you'll talk a little bit about the labor variance. What did we just do? What was our actual? What was our POHR? Just talk about that stuff. Okay, and then what needs to be investigated, determine the reason for the variance. Okay, so what kind of factors could you go in and look at? What caused that variance? What's going on there? You've got 3 different elements to look at there. So what's going on with that? And that's all you've got to do for that last paragraph. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If not, shoot me an email. Let's talk about it. And if we're in face-to-face, we can talk about it in class. If you're in an online, then just send me an email. All right. I hope this has been helpful to you.